Well, hi everyone, this is Dr. Schroeder with this week's video introduction to week number 2 of our course in the Principles of Staff and Patient Education. And first of all, please pardon my voice. I've been fighting a cold or a flu virus that's been going around, probably around the whole country, but it seems like it really just got mired down here in Southern California. And so pretty much all week, let's just say that's just taken me out. It's been a rough week. Feeling a little bit better today, but I can still really hear it in my voice. So pardon my raspy voice here. But week number 1, we got off to a good week of class discussion, got off to a good start. Besides posting some introductions, getting to know each other a little bit, our question specifically focused on the roles of the nurse educator. And as I mentioned in my announcement last week, and as it came out in class, there's actually many roles of nursing educators. Not all nursing educators just work in hospitals, of course. Um, I was encouraged and enjoyed reading that most of you either work already in some role where you are conducting some training, and so this is a topic very close to your heart. For others of you, you're really looking for that first entree into being a nurse educator, and so one of the common ways of doing that, of course, is by working as a educator in a college or university, working specifically for a nursing program, but it's not the only way. Another popular way is to work, well, as a staff developer, working in my previous life. One of my um, roles in nursing has been as a quality manager. And as a quality manager, I spent a good at least 25% and sometimes as much as 50% of my time doing education, teaching staff, teaching doctors, principles of communication, principles of documentation, all things related to accreditation and to risk management, how to handle legal situations. So there was, many ways that I did education even before I was really truly an educator. It is baked into many of the roles that are currently nursing leadership roles. And so one of the um, common threads in all these leadership positions that we talked about, or excuse me, all these education roles that we talked about, is that all of them require the nurse to be a good leader. And we're talking about leadership as we move through the program. As a matter of fact, you have a paper due, a case study due in week 3 talking about leadership and leadership styles. So we'll talk about that a little bit moving forward as well. Um, a couple of the concepts that came up in class were the importance of certification. A clinical nurse educator is a specific certification that is maintained primarily by nurses that work in the hospital, although it is a certification that is also sought out many times by hospital organizations. It was an interesting thread that came up, and a couple of the threads discussed the importance of uh, human simulation. And there are certifications for human simulators now. And simulation is something that is very much a big deal right in patient and staff education right now because, well, like everything else, the technology has grown to the point where many of the things that we used to have to teach in the classroom and teach in a clinical setting, we can now teach in a simulation lab because using simulators many ways replicates, high fidelity simulation replicates all those things that we can do in a true clinical setting. So having educators that understand that, and having educators that are um, trained and proficient in using simulators is another area where there's a real growing need and a real I think that's probably going to be one of the big cutting edge things moving forward is coming up with good and effective simulation. So that's something that we can discuss, and I'm sure that will come up as we move through class. Matter of fact, we'll be talking about it more specifically in the later weeks of class. In week number 2, we shift focus a little bit, and we're going to be talking about the Nurse Practice Act, and you'll be doing a discussion question. You're going to be, and the discussion question is, examine the Nurse Practice Act of 3 different states. Specifically, examine the continuing education requirements listed in the Practice Act, talk about similarities and differences, and talk about how they influence the role of the nurse educator. Um, I will leave you to your own research on this, but I'll kind of introduce this concept by saying that one of the things that really surprised me when I started to teach courses in education and leadership across state lines, particularly and online programs across state lines, is the wide variation from state to state as far as how some things are done. And one of them is continuing education. Some states don't require any continuing education. Some states put the onus of continuing education fully on healthcare providers, and so healthcare providers are expected to show that they're providing education. Other states put the onus completely on the nurse, and the nurses are responsible for collecting a given number of hours of continuing education and showing proof of that. So um, it will be interesting to see what your own individual research finds or reveals in that. Um, and so that will be the primary topic of discussion this week. Also this week, there's some materials related to ethics of clinical nursing and ethics of nurse educator. And so there may be some side discussion come up on the concept of ethics as well. Look for your scoring for week number 1 to be completed sometime probably on Wednesday or Thursday. I usually, for discussion questions, usually have the grading done around midweek or so. That would be fairly normal or fairly sort of the norm for me. And I don't see anything that will keep me from meeting that particular deadline. When we have written assignments, they're usually due later, or I usually have the feedback due more spread out through the week, and usually more towards the weekend, especially like Thursday and Friday are my heavy days in class. Remember, you do, in week number 3, you do have a written assignment coming up, so just make sure that that's on your radar screen. As you have any questions about that assignment, please let me know. It's a case study and a little paper that you're going to be doing on nurse leadership, or excuse me, leadership and leadership styles. And so we'll be focusing on that as we get to week number 3. So I hope everybody has a great week. I have just posted an announcement. I received word from the school that apparently there's some quite bad weather that is affecting the northeastern states, and most of you are in the northeastern region. So please let me know if you're experiencing any outages with your internet or with power. I will make accommodations as need be on a case-by-case basis. So if you are being challenged, or if you do have a few days where you can't get into class, don't fret about it too much. Just go ahead and let me know. Let me know when you do get back in the class. And I will go ahead and make accommodations for you. And again, I just do that on a case-by-case basis. Main thing is to keep safe. So keep safe and do what you need to do to, well, keep your head above water, literally and figuratively. So I hope you have a great week. I look forward to participating with you once again, and I will see you in the discussion forums.